The most bizarre celebrity deaths. You've seen them on screens, stages, and social media. Celebrities worshipped like modern-day gods. But at the end of the day, they're human just like us. And some of them met their end in ways so shocking and bizarre, you won't believe they're real. Ever heard of a singer electrocuting himself in his own bathtub? Or an escape artist brought down by his own appendix? Sounds unbelievable, right? But it gets even stranger. From tragic bathroom mishaps to stunts straight out of the Darwin Awards, this is the dark side of fame you never knew about. Curious to find out how these legends met their fate? Trust me, you won't see this coming. Let's dive in.
Even got a shadow. I'm like some yayo trying to sleep on me, but can't.
Jon James, a Canadian rapper, stunt performer, and professional skier, rose to fame in the 2000s and 10s for his versatility. He often incorporated daring stunts into his music videos, an impressive trademark of his career. But in 2018, one such stunt went tragically wrong. While filming for an upcoming music video, James attempted an extremely risky feat, walking along the wing of a small Cessna aircraft in mid-flight, soaring hundreds of feet above the ground. However, as he stepped onto the wing, his weight threw off the plane's balance, sending it into a downward spiral. Despite wearing a parachute as a precaution, James held onto the wing for too long. By the time he finally let go, it was too late to deploy it, sealing his fate. A devastating end to a fearless performer. Let's just hope that music video never sees the light of day.
Walking through a party in the county jail. The prison band was there.
Elvis Presley, famously known as the King of Rock and Roll, remains one of the most legendary figures in music history. Though his career peaked in the 1950s, he still holds the title of the world's third highest-selling music artist. A remarkable feat, right? Unfortunately, the way he left this world was far less glamorous. As he entered his 40s, Elvis's health took a serious downturn. He had a deep love for rich, fatty foods, especially hamburgers. But as his metabolism slowed with age, his indulgent diet led his weight to soar to around 350 pounds, nearly double the size of the average man today. By 1977, at just 42 years old, his excessive lifestyle caught up with him. While attempting to relieve himself in the bathroom, Elvis, who suffered from severe constipation, experienced a fatal heart attack. But this wasn't just any heart attack. According to the coroner, it was triggered by something called the Valsalva maneuver. Essentially, he strained so hard while trying to have a bowel movement that it put immense pressure on his aorta, one of the heart's main blood vessels, ultimately causing the attack. Tragically, the King of Rock and Roll was later found unresponsive by his girlfriend, lying face down on the bathroom floor. Not exactly a fitting end for music royalty, is it?
Dad!
Dar Robinson, the legendary American stuntman and actor, was a dominant force in the industry from the 1960s to the 1980s, setting an incredible 21 world stunt records. Dubbed the King of the Stuntmen, he was known for gravity-defying feats, including an astonishing 900-foot freefall from Toronto's CN Tower. Impressive, right? But even the most fearless daredevils can't outrun danger forever. In 1986, while working as a stunt double on the high-energy film $1 Million Mystery, Robinson executed a daring stunt, crashing a motorcycle into a guardrail at 40 miles per hour before launching himself over it into a safety net. With the toughest part behind him, he may have felt a sense of relief. Unfortunately, that moment of ease proved fatal. Later that day, while filming a routine motorbike chase, Robinson sped down a steep hill toward a sharp curve. But instead of making the turn, he lost control of his dirt bike and plunged off a rugged 40-foot cliff. A tragic and unexpected end for one of Hollywood's greatest stunt performers. Steve Irwin. If you grew up in the 90s, you know Steve Irwin was nothing short of a legend. The Australian wildlife enthusiast became a global icon as the charismatic host of The Crocodile Hunter, a hit nature series where he fearlessly interacted with crocodiles, snakes, spiders. Basically, if it was deadly, Steve wanted to get up close and personal. Then, in September 2006, while filming a new documentary called Ocean's Deadliest off the eastern coast of Australia, Irwin waded into shallow waters and encountered a massive short-tailed stingray, an astonishing 8 feet across. Most people would instinctively keep their distance, but Steve Irwin wasn't most people. Confident that stingrays are usually docile and more likely to flee than fight, he moved in for a closer look. Unfortunately, this particular stingray wasn't in a cooperative mood. Without warning, it lifted its body and drove its razor-sharp 8-inch barb straight into Irwin's chest. At first, he believed it had punctured his lung, but in reality, the barb had pierced his heart, a fatal wound made even worse by the venom stingrays carry. While his passing was tragic, at least he died doing what he loved. And let's be honest, it's a far more fitting end than, say, going out on the toilet. Some celebrity deaths will leave you speechless. Drop a W in the comments and stick around to hear some of the craziest ones yet. Bruce Lee, finding a celebrity as fearless as Steve Irwin is no easy task, but if anyone comes close, it's Bruce Lee. The Hong Kong-American martial artist and actor became a global icon through films like Enter the Dragon and The Way of the Dragon, while also popularizing the legendary phrase, "Be water, my friend." Pretty cool, right? Given his larger-than-life status, you'd think it would take something extraordinary to bring him down. But reality had other plans. In 1973, while rehearsing for an upcoming film, Lee began experiencing dizziness and a severe headache. His close friend and rumored lover, Betty Ting, gave him Equagesic, a strong aspirin-based painkiller. After taking the pill, Lee lay down to rest and never woke up. Official reports ruled his death as cerebral edema, brain swelling triggered by an allergic reaction to the medication. But more recent research suggests a different possibility: kidney dysfunction. Despite his lean, muscular physique, Lee followed juice-heavy diets and reportedly drank excessive amounts of water, which may have disrupted his body's electrolyte balance. This could have led to hyponatremia, a condition where excess water dilutes sodium levels, causing nausea, cramping, and, ironically, the very headaches he was trying to relieve. In severe cases, it results in seizures and rapid brain swelling. Perhaps in the end, it really was too much water, my friend.
My body turns and yearns.
Jeff Buckley, American singer-songwriter Jeff Buckley, rose to fame in the mid-1990s, largely thanks to his haunting rendition of Hallelujah. But in a tragic twist of fate, his own ending was anything but divine. In 1997, Buckley was in Memphis working on the follow-up to his critically acclaimed debut album, Grace. One warm afternoon, he and his friend Keith Foti decided to unwind by the Wolf River, a tributary of the Mississippi. Feeling spontaneous, Buckley waded into the water, fully clothed in jeans, a t-shirt, and even his combat boots. Swimming in heavy, wet fabric is difficult, but Buckley, a strong swimmer, didn't seem concerned. Everything appeared normal, until a passing boat created waves. For a brief moment, Foti lost sight of him. What happened next remains a mystery, but one thing was certain: he was gone. It's likely that turbulence from the boat's wake pulled him under. 5 days later, his body was found. Toxicology reports confirmed he was completely sober at the time. A haunting and deeply unsettling end, one that felt strangely un-rock and roll.
West Virginia, Blue Ridge Mountain.
John Denver. Jeff Buckley wasn't the only musician to meet a watery end. Renowned singer-songwriter John Denver suffered a similar fate, one that seemed eerily foreshadowed by his own music. Best known for timeless hits like Take Me Home, Country Roads, and Leaving on a Jet Plane, Denver had another deep passion beyond music: aviation. Over the years, he logged an impressive 2,700-plus flight hours, making him a seasoned pilot. But in October 1997, his love for flying took a tragic turn. After acquiring a sleek Long-E-Z aircraft, Denver was eager to take it for a spin. He took off from Monterey Peninsula Airport, soaring over the Pacific Ocean under clear skies, perfect flying conditions. But at exactly 5:28 p.m., witnesses on the ground heard a sudden explosion. His plane had plummeted straight into the sea. How could such an experienced pilot make a fatal mistake? Turns out, in his excitement, Denver overlooked a critical step: refueling the aircraft. A shocking oversight, especially for a trained pilot, right? Well, here's the catch. At the time, Denver wasn't even licensed to fly. His pilot's license had been revoked over a year earlier. And now the reason was painfully clear. First Bruce Lee, then Jeff Buckley, and now John Denver. Celebrities and water just don't seem to mix. Jim Heselden. Not all famous figures come from Hollywood. Take Jim Heselden, for example. A highly successful entrepreneur, he made his fortune by developing the Hesco Bastion, a key military fortification. With his immense wealth, Heselden went on to purchase Segway Inc., the company behind the iconic two-wheeled personal transporter, in 2009. Ironically, that very decision would lead to his tragic demise. After acquiring the company, Heselden fully embraced the Segway as his go-to mode of transport. But during one of his rides, fate took a cruel turn. While traveling near a dangerously steep drop, he encountered a pedestrian walking their dog. Wanting to give them extra space, he reversed, only to lose control of the Segway completely. In a devastating twist, both Heselden and his Segway plunged 40 feet below. Neither survived. Life has a strange way of unfolding, sometimes with tragic irony. Have you ever experienced an unexpected event with an ironic twist? Share your story in the comments below. Aeschylus' bizarre celebrity deaths aren't just a modern phenomenon. Nearly 2,500 years before TikTok, ancient Greek playwright Aeschylus, dubbed the father of tragedy, met an end so ironic it could have been one of his own plays. According to legend, one morning, Aeschylus stepped outside, perhaps to gather inspiration for his next masterpiece. Meanwhile, high above him, an eagle had just caught a tortoise, clutching it tightly in its talons. Mistaking Aeschylus's gleaming bald head for a rock, the bird dropped the tortoise, hoping to crack open its shell. Instead, it struck Aeschylus square on the skull, killing him instantly. Maybe the eagle just wasn't a fan of his work. As if that wasn't eerie enough, Aeschylus had reportedly been staying outdoors to avoid a prophecy that foretold he would die from a falling object. When fate catches up, it really catches up. Since he was the father of tragedy, some believe later Greek storytellers may have exaggerated the tale for dramatic effect. But if the story is true, that would make him history's very first celebrity. Henry I. Tortoises aren't the only creatures tied to a bizarre celebrity demise. Just ask Henry I. One of the most prominent figures of the 12th century, Henry ruled England from 1000 to 1135. Like many medieval royals, he indulged in extravagant feasts, and his favorite delicacy? Lampreys, jawless, eel-like fish known for their terrifying sucker mouths lined with hooked teeth. According to historical accounts, the king was in the middle of one of his infamous lamprey feasts when, without warning, he keeled over and died. But what exactly happened? Did he choke? Suffer an allergic reaction? While improperly cleaned lampreys can produce toxins that cause cramps, vomiting, and diarrhea, no recorded deaths have ever been linked to them. So if the fish weren't to blame, what was? Recent studies point to Listeria monocytogenes, a deadly foodborne bacterium with a mortality rate of up to 30%. It can cause meningitis, sepsis, and severe gastroenteritis, thriving in cool, damp environments like Henry's stone fortress. In the end, it seems England's king may have fallen victim to tainted seafood or lethal microbes. Either way, it wasn't exactly a royal send-off. Do you think lampreys really killed King Henry? Comment yes or no and tell us why. Tycho Brahe. Is there anything worse than desperately needing to pee but not being able to? Tycho Brahe certainly knew that struggle. A renowned 16th century Danish astronomer, Brahe is celebrated for mapping over 1,000 stars in his lifetime. You might expect an astronomer to live a quiet, scholarly life, but Brahe was anything but ordinary. He owned a pet moose, and after losing part of his nose in a sword fight, he famously wore a brass prosthetic. But the most bizarre part of his story? How he died. In 1601, Brahe attended a lavish banquet where, at some point, he felt the urgent need to relieve himself. However, believing it would be rude to excuse himself, he decided to hold it in. He stuck to that decision so stubbornly that by the time he finally made it home, hours later, he found himself completely unable to urinate. Days passed, and his condition worsened. He developed relentless insomnia, a persistent fever, and severe delirium, symptoms consistent with a ruptured bladder. After 11 agonizing days, his body gave out, and he succumbed to his condition. So, if you ever find yourself at a formal dinner and nature calls, forget etiquette. Just go. Hans Steininger. Though not widely remembered today, Hans Steininger was a well-respected figure in the mid-16th century, serving as the mayor of Braunau am Inn, Austria. However, what truly set him apart wasn't his leadership. It was his legendary beard. Measuring an astonishing 4.5 feet long, his facial hair trailed well past his feet. It was so unwieldy that he typically folded it up and tucked it into his pocket to keep it under control. In September 1567, disaster struck when a fire broke out in Braunau am Inn. Without modern firefighting equipment, such blazes could consume an entire town in no time. As mayor, Steininger knew he had to take charge. But in the chaos, he made one critical mistake. He forgot to secure his beard. While rushing toward a staircase, he accidentally stepped on his own facial hair, lost his balance, and tumbled down the stairs. The fall proved fatal. Guess you could say that unfortunate trip became his very own stairway to heaven.
You mustn't say anything to upset him.
I didn't know that.
Don't say anything about him being an Australian.
Rod Hull. Ever been peacefully watching TV when, bam, the signal suddenly cuts out? Frustrating, right? No one understood that annoyance better than Rod Hull. A beloved British comedian and entertainer, Hull rose to fame in the 70s and 80s, always accompanied by his mischievous puppet sidekick, Emu. In 1999, Hull was watching a soccer match with his son, Oliver, when the screen abruptly went blank. Irritated, he decided to fix it himself rather than call a professional. Grabbing a ladder, he climbed onto the roof to adjust the aerial while Oliver stayed inside, waiting to see if the picture returned. But instead of the signal coming back, he suddenly heard a crash, followed by a heavy thud. It wasn't the aerial that had fallen. His father had lost his footing, plummeting through the greenhouse and landing hard on the concrete floor below. A tragic and unexpected accident. Honestly, moments like this make you grateful that satellite TV issues are mostly a thing of the past.
Got a tremendous reaction, but it's settled down now, and
Sonny Bono long before Beyonce and Jay-Z, or Meghan and Harry, another powerhouse duo, took the world by storm, Sonny and Cher. This iconic American pop and entertainment pair ruled the 60s and 70s, featuring the legendary goddess of pop, Cher, and her then-husband, Sonny Bono. While Cher remains a household name, Sonny was a major figure in his own right, excelling in music, television, and even politics, eventually serving as the mayor of Palm Springs. But in January 1998, his story took a tragic turn. To ring in the new year, Sonny embarked on a family ski trip to Heavenly Ski Resort in California with his wife, Mary Whitaker, and their 2 children. After spending time skiing together, he decided to hit the slopes solo. His family waited for him at the bottom, expecting him to arrive shortly, but as the hours passed with no sign of him, concern grew. A search and rescue team was dispatched, and when they finally found him, the outcome was grim. At some point, Sonny had lost control, veering off course and crashing headfirst into a tree on the edge of the slope. And, let's be honest, when it comes to a collision between a human skull and a solid tree trunk, there's no question which one wins.